Hello friends, and welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. This is Cassie. Today we're going to be making an easy light up card, and we're going to be using some Heffy Doodle products. Let's talk a little bit about them. I've got this Prehistoric Pals stamp set and die. That's not new, it's been around for a little while. We also have this Everyday Sentiment Duos. I did pull out the stitched stone dies, but I don't end up using it, and I do use the Stoney Maloney stencil along with the Easy Light. So I'm going to quickly just use some Express It cardstock in my Misty, ink those up with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink and stamp those down, because those are two very Copic friendly or alcohol marker friendly products, and so we will color these up quickly as well. I stamped out several images, and then we're just going to start slapping down some color. We've got some E97, that's going to go on all of our little cars just on the edges to make these look like wood. These stamps are so cute. Obviously they make you think, if you're from my generation, they make you think of the Flintstones a little bit. I don't color them like that. I do something a little bit different. In fact, it's almost a little bit monotone. At the end of this, you're going to look at these colors and go, boy, those are very monotone, and that, you know, that's okay. It will end up coming together when we put everything together. What you saw me do earlier is I did some tip-to-tip work with our Copics. Sometimes you don't have all the colors you need, and you can transfer some of that color sometimes if you do your tip to the other tip. So I used my lightest tip to my darkest tip, grabbed a little bit of that color, and it doesn't hurt your markers. Moving on to the wheels, we're just adding a little bit of the W's. I decided to stick with more warm tones. And then we'll do the same thing for our stones. At this point I was like, oh, I forgot to stamp out the house that I needed, so I will stamp that down, or I did stamp that down, and then I'll continue on with my coloring, and we're again using just those W's. Now I'm not so concerned about that color going into the openings of like the window or the doors, because I am going to end up cutting that out, and I know that sounds kind of crazy, but you'll see what I mean and why I do it later on. And I go lightest to darkest, so I started out with my W1, bringing my W3. I am going to even add a little bit of that W4, and then I'll blend that out a little bit going backwards with the W3, and then back through with the W1, just to blend that out even more. And then we'll move on to our little people. Now, I wasn't paying attention, had it clear off the screen. The colors that I used for their skin were E13 and E15, and then her hair was just some yellow. For his hair we're using some E29 and E49. It's very dark on screen, but you definitely can see the contrast between the two colors when you see it up close. And I'm just using flicking motions for the hair just to give you the illusion that that hair has more depth to it. And then for their outfits and the Mammoth, we end up using the same colors. So here's what I'm talking about when I mean very monotone. So we've got E08, and then I'm going to come in with some E19, and we'll do the same thing for his outfit. You could change it up obviously, or do whatever colors you wanted, but I was sticking with actual Prehistoric for cartoon critters here. And then for our Mammoth we do the same colors, so the E08, and then I will bring in that E19 again. He's just so cute. You could color him all different ways, I think. And then as far as where I put my shadowing for him, honestly I was winging it, which is really what I do most of the time with shadowing and shading, just kind of put down color where I think it might be. But his face threw me off a little bit. So we're just putting down that color, and then we will blend that out a little bit more with that E08. So just working backwards. And then for his feet, I'll use the E19 on his toes. And then we'll bring in like the E15 for his feet and his tusk. And then the club, we're just using those same colors we used on the cars. So now I'm going to tack down all of the matching dies using a little bit of washi tape, because I don't want that to shift, and then I'll run that through my die cutting machine. And then I am going to pull in this die. This is actually from Trinity Stamps. This is the Modern Embossed A7 Layers die, which is a 5x7. So I'm going to be making a 5x7 card. I figured for For the light up, that would be a lot more fun. And I'm using parts of 2 different colors, and those are going to overlap. I need those to overlap just a little bit. But before I attach those to each other, I'm going to stick the gray one down to the back of this stencil using a little bit of Heffy tape. And I'm going to bring in some Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide. It looks a lot darker, and then it dries back a little bit. And I'm also going to splatter on that. I'm going to use some iced spruce. That is more of a gray-green, but it looks really good on here. And that dries back a little bit as well. I just wanted to add a little bit of texture to that background. We're doing some scene building. And then for our sky, this is the easiest way I found to make a sky. Just use dark navy cardstock and then add all the splatter in the world you want to. So I used speckled egg, and then I'm also just using a little bit of white picket fence paint, and then I also have some shimmer paint as well, and then I'll heat set both of those until those are good and dry. And then here is where I'm going to cut out the insides of those windows and the door. So I start by poking a hole from the front, and then I go in from the back. This makes it easier to cut along that black line, and you want to cut as close as you can. It's okay if you don't get it all. I'll show you a trick on how to cover up some of that white, but I'm just basically fussy cutting around that. It can be a little bit of a pain, but the end result really makes it worth it. So again, just cutting around that line, and I'll do the same thing with that last window, coming in from behind and cutting that way. And then once that is done, we'll bring in our die cutting machine because I want to cut out some vellum. So I'm going to use the die cut that I used for the house on some vellum, so I know it'll match perfectly right behind our house. But before I attach it, and before I do any more, I'm going to bring in my Memento marker, and I am just going to, you'll see those white lines, I'm going to cover up those white lines with that Memento marker, coming in from behind just in case I get a little marker happy, a little marker crazy. And that'll just kind of take some of that whiteness away. It won't be so stark. Now before I attach that to the vellum, I need to know where I'm going to poke my holes. And then that means I need to attach this gray piece to this navy piece. So I've pulled out my card base, which again is a 5x7 or an A7 card. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid glue to the bottom portion of this blue piece and then attach down my gray piece. This will just ensure that everything is going to line up nicely. And that die cut that I used, the A7 layers die, gives this beautiful embossed edge. I've talked about that before if you've watched any of my videos. I just love that embossed edge. So here I'm going to poke some holes through those openings. I want to make sure they're decent size holes. That's where my lights are going to go, and I need 3 of them. So now I can attach that vellum behind our house. So just using some liquid glue, I'll put that vellum down, and that'll just soften the lights a little bit, but still make sure that you can see through. And now I can attach my house right over the top of those holes. Just making sure that I don't cover the holes. I'm going to pick it up and ensure that I don't. So that's how that works. And then I need to sort of build my scene. Everything's been attached down with a little bit of liquid glue, and we're going to do some stamping. I have that little rock up there, but I need the word club. So I am going to mask off the rest of this sentiment that says, "You're never too old to go clubbing." I just need club. So I took some Heffy tape, covered up the rest of it, inked it up, removed my Heffy tape, and now we have the word club, which is going to go on top of our little house, which is supposed to look like the club. And our rock, we need to stamp Push Me. So I'm using the Interactively Yours stamp set, and I'll put Push Me. That's where you're going to push for everything to work. I stamped out my sentiment, "You're never too old to go clubbing," and I'm going to trim that out using my guillotine trimmer. And then I can attach that to the front as well. The only thing not attached to this front is that rock that says push here, or Push Me. No, it says push here. And now we're going to pull out our actual mechanism. So this is the Easy Light. If you've never seen it before, be prepared to be amazed at how easy this is. You have a battery, and then you pop apart your mechanism, And then you put your battery in, just line up the plus sign where the plus sign is supposed to go. Don't do what I'm doing here, which is not the right way. Just stick it in. It's that easy. And then just make sure everything works. And those holes we put on the back, now we're going to pop each of those lights through and put a little washi tape right up against it. Now I've seen others take just that clear Scotch tape and put it right over the back, but I'm just making sure that these are poked through those holes, taking washi tape and sticking it down. And you're going to notice that the back of this card looks rough. That's okay. No one's going to see it. And then I check it to make sure everything's working, and check it out. Our club lights up. So now I need a 1/4 inch piece of score tape. You're just going to peel off the release paper on that if you can. I'm struggling here. But I've put that on the back where it says Pearblossom Press, which is where you get these easy lights from Amanda. And I'll have it all linked down below. And I like to make sure that my mechanism is close to the edge, so if the recipient ever needs to replace the battery or wants to, they sure can get to it. So now I can put down my rock because I know exactly where the push button is. And then for the rest of those cords that are, or wires that are all sticking up, just grab some washi tape and slap it down. That's it. It's that simple. All right, I am going to pull out the Heffy Doodle 12 millimeter deep foam tape. I'm using the 5 millimeter, or there's 3 millimeter. It's 3 millimeters deep, and you can get it in 12 millimeter or 5 millimeter. My bad. So if you don't have this thicker foam tape, you can double up your foam tape. That works fine, but this stuff is great because you don't have to double it up. And then I'm just going to make sure I go all the way around the edges and then just put down enough that I don't have any collapse if I'm going to put this through the mail. And then I can peel off all the release paper on those center pieces. But before I do that, I need to finish up the inside of my card. I don't want to attach this down before I do that. I am going to do a little more masking on this sentiment because this one said happy birthday, something about eating cake, and I didn't want that. I just wanted the happy birthday. And again, that set is from the Everyday Sentiment Duos, so I'll stamp that down. And then there's another sentiment from the Prehistoric Pals that I want. It's just perfect. It says have a mammoth day. So I'll stamp that right underneath happy birthday. And then I can take my mammoth and I can attach him to the inside. So then our card has a little something on the inside. Now I can close this up and I can start adhering my panel to my base. So like I said, I'll peel off all the release paper on those center bits of foam tape. And then for these outside ones, I like to peel them a little bit and fold them over just so that they're still accessible. But then I'm not committed totally. So this way, I can make sure that I'm attaching it down correctly and I don't push too hard. This way I can pull off the rest of that release paper. Sometimes it sticks, no big deal. And then put everything down and our card works great. And I did make a matching envelope to go with this, but check that out. Never too old to go clubbing. So fun. I hope this starts your Monday off great like it has for me. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in another video. Bye everybody.